Morning students, hope you all are staying safe at home. Today we will be starting a new chapter of history, chapter 7, Education and British Rule. In most of the Indian secondary schools today, we study history, geography, political science, mathematics, language, science. These are some of the main subjects which are taught to you. But these are not the subjects which the people studied before the British came. Okay, so our modern curriculum and the subjects we learn today, they are the result of changes which are being introduced by the British in the sphere of education. Let us study this chapter to know about these changes. Education in pre-British India. Before the coming of the British, education in India was imparted through indigenous institutions of learning such as gurukuls, tolls, pathshalas, maktabs, madrasas, etc. And the curriculum of education in these institutions, it was based on the objective of upholding the social customs, religious values, and the subjects that was taught there included philosophy, logic, law, poetry, geometry, astronomy, etc. So the medium of instruction was different as Sanskrit, Arabic, or Persian. Now let us learn about the introduction of Western education in India. When the British, they first took over the administration in some of the regions in India, they were traders that time, not the rulers, and they were not concerned with the education of Indians here, and hence that did not interfere in the starting point. In fact, some of the British scholars like William Jones, James Frincep, and Henry Thomas, they took active interest in the glorious past of India by studying the ancient Indian texts here. They translated Sanskrit and Persian works into English, and they circulated it among their fellow members. So, under their influence, the indigenous system of education continued to flourish. But as the British expanded and they started consolidating their rule in India, they felt that there is a need for Western education Indians, and the people who have Western education knowledge, who would act as their agents here and who would help them to administer their empire in India. The issue on the nature of education to be followed in India was two factions, the Orientalists and the Anglicists. So the Orientalists were the one who believed in continuing the indigenous system of learning, and the Anglicists were advocated, and they were when they wanted to introduce Western science, philosophy, and literature through English in India. Lord Macaulay, an eminent British politician, he noted Anglicist. He was a noted Anglicist, and he called for an educational system which created a class of Anglicized Indians who served as intermediaries the British and the Indians. His famous speech in the British Parliament titled Minute on Indian Education of February 1835 was responsible for the introduction of English education in India. According to this recommendations of English Education Act of 1835, there was a sum allocated for the promotion of higher education. The medium of instruction in all the schools was funded by the British government, and it was changed to English. So some learned Indians who known this, they were exposed to Western education, and they realized the drawbacks of the traditional system of education. Some like Raja Ram Mohan Roy, Ishwar Chandra Vidyasagar, Swami Dayanand Saraswati, they went to great lengths to incorporate all that was good in the Western system of traditional system, like the education of women, for example, was a welcome and much needed introduction in the country, and therefore they supported their efforts, and they enlightened the British educationists like David Hare, John Drinkwater Bethune, and Annie Besant here. Now let us move on to Wood's Dispatch 1854. As English education in India received further impetus from the Wood's Dispatch. In 1854, Sir Charles Woods, he was the president of Board of Control of the English East India Company, and he sent a dispatch to Governor General Dalhousie, which contained a set of recommendations for the setting up of system of education from the primary to the university levels. And the main recommendations of the dispatch were the promotion of Western education in Indian colleges with English as a medium of instruction, like in English would be taught in Indian colleges, to provide grants in aid to private institutions who was affiliated to the government, to setting up of universities in Calcutta, Bombay, and Madras along with the lines of University of London, training and recruitment of teachers as teacher training institutes, the establishment of technical institutions for vocational training, the setting up of vernacular schools at primary levels, setting up of Department of Public Instruction for reviewing the progress of education in each province and submitting an annual report to the government. Over this period, Western system of education gradually replaced the Indian methods of teaching and learning. Let us see the analysis of the Western system of education. The education system introduced by British, it had a number of demerits, like the curricula or the subjects which were being taught, they were modeled on British system, and it was out of touch with the culture and reality of India. And because of that, Indians found it very difficult to grasp that subject and to pass the examination. And the people who passed, it was just through rote learning, okay, not from the understanding aspect. The three universities which was set up in Bombay, Calcutta and Madras, they were examining bodies and did not teach the students. So new system was focused more on education at higher levels, and the primary system, primary education was neglected, and therefore the scientific and technical learning was neglected, as the British, they wanted to create a class of interpreters and clerks, not the officers. So English was the main medium of education at the university level. The mass, they were unable to access higher education. So no effort was made to translate Western literature into vernacular languages. And because of these merits, the Western system of education was largely secular. It was an advantage, we can say, that because of this curricula, which was designed to promote elegance to British rule, it also introduced some Western concepts of liberty, equality, justice, democracy, nationalism, and this in long term, it instilled strong nationalist sentiments among the Western educated Indians, and they started practice of imparting education to girls. Schools and colleges, they were reserved only for girls, and all these things were being done to promote things which were being the right path in India's education, we can say. So now let us learn about national education. Gradually, we learned that as feelings of nationalism gained momentum, many of the Indians, they started to feel the need to devise a system of education that would be national in scope and content. And because of that, it gave rise to national education movement in India. Under its influence, there were several educational institutions which were being founded, such as Dayanand Anglo-Vedic schools and colleges, founded under Arya Samaj. In 1906, leaders like Satish Chandra Mukherjee, Aurobindo Ghosh, and Rabindranath Tagore, they established the National Council of Education. So the primary aim of these were to impart liberty, scientific and technical education under Indian control. So there, under their supervision also, there were several schools and colleges which were being established over there. Now let us move on to the case study of Aligarh. Sir Syed Ahmad Khan, a social reformer and visionary, he felt that the position of Muslims in India was decreasing after the revolt of 1857. So he decided to introduce Western education in order to uplift the conditions of the people, of Muslim people especially, so that they can also move on to the path of modernity and path of progress. At the same time, he did not wish to give up his traditional values and teachings. To bridge the gap between the scientific society, we can say, and the traditional society, he set up the Scientific Society of Aligarh in 1864 to translate Western scientific words in Urdu. In 1875, he established the Mohammedan Anglo-Oriental College, which imparted Western education along with Islamic learning. And in 1921, the college went on to become the Aligarh Muslim University, and it was designed to train Muslims for government services in India and to prepare them for advanced training in British universities. So the AMU, it produced a generation of Muslim nationalist leaders who played a very important role in India's freedom struggle. Now let us learn about Baroda. The ruler of Baroda, that is Vadodara, today in Gujarat, Maharaja Sayaji Rao III, played a significant role in introducing educational reforms in the state. During his reign of 60 years, he implemented various measures to promote the study of arts, science, and women's education. It was his primary education which he made compulsory for all children, and he established schools in different parts of the state. He also set up libraries to encourage education among adults. One of his most important achievements in the field of education was to lay the foundation of Baroda College of Science in 1880, which was later merged with Maharaja Sayaji Rao University MSU, which was established by the Maharaja's son Pratap Singh Rao Gaikwad. So students, with this we have reached to the end of the lesson. Read the same from your textbooks, and if you have any doubt, feel free to ask. Till then, keep learning and have a good day ahead.